What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Tactical Tortoise. My name's Trevi, and I'm here with Shuma. And we're going to talk about how good all of the armies in 40k are. How's it going, Shuma?
Pretty good.
Have you been playing many a 9th edition game?
I've been playing a couple, I gotta say. I think I've played more 8th since 9th came out, but that's because I was trying to not be 1 point short of getting into the T5S2.
Well, turns out you were like 2 or something. So, fortunately, we're not talking about the 8th edition 40k tier list because it would be Admech and Eldar, and then we would just delete all of the other icons. And
then you'd have a Corn Lord of Skulls army.
There would be a Lord of Skulls. Yeah, we'd have chaos in the B tier there. But thank God that's over. What a degenerate mess. But we now we're in an exciting time where it's probably going to be Admech and Eldar.
Well, or our like oily Supermen, you know.
Or so how do I do this? So I just drag them? Oh yeah.
You start in the top left though, right? You can't just go straight to your favorites, right?
F.
You gotta put those oily Supermen back.
All right, goodbye, oily Superman. So we're so we got to fill out the bottom tier. Yeah.
All right. No. So we hit. You don't hit these a tier at a time. God. You start on the bottom left.
The bottom left.
Your selection. Yeah.
Oh, so orcs.
Sure.
Yeah. Is that what we're on? Is this one?
Yeah, sure. Just randomized selection. Just pull them out.
Okay.
So where
are orcs? D. That was easy.
You think that's? I mean, that's charitable.
E.
I would say that they were D until they got that FAQ, and now the KFF doesn't protect them in melee, and
really?
Also went up in cost.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And also, you can't use custom jobs on your things anymore unless you buy a stupid terrain piece.
I think they officially reversed that FAQ after I think someone on their design team got murdered by like a random orc player.
So somebody killed them with a Stompa.
Some insane individual who had actually purchased a Mechboy workshop, showing how unhinged and really just like psychopathically violent they are, just like trucked over there and then like threw it at one of them.
Yeah, he used it. Well, he used the various small pieces of the Mechboy workshop as caltrops to entrap him into the Stompa beatdown.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, after that, like...
So from what I understand, the Mechboy Workshop FAQ, it says you have to have a Mechboy Workshop to use the custom job stratagem. The Warhammer community team has said that was incorrect, but I don't know if there's been an actual FAQ on it. Do you know that?
I think we can probably just assume.
Well, who knows?
And that in 4 months, they'll reverse
We do know that Games
Workshop,
the Games Workshop's various departments are really good at communicating with each other.
Yeah, maybe they'll say you need 2 Mechboy Workshops.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
You need 1 for every.
You need a Mechboy Workshop and a Stompa to unlock the stratagem.
I think even without that, like it's seemingly the only really viable orc build was just tons of boys.
Put a bunch of boys on the table.
Yeah, and then probably like a Luda squad somewhere that just walks out and fires once before dying because you can't afford the grots to screen it anymore.
Yeah.
But like without the force fields, the boys just lose to intercessors in combat.
Yep.
Which is not a good look. So at this point, they just took. Yeah, that army just doesn't do anything.
All right. Next up in the bottom left, we have. Is this knights?
Looks like
Imperial Knights. Are there Chaos Knights on this?
I mean, do they? Nope. Do we even need there to be?
I guess they're just in Chaos Soup. They're just in Chaos Soup. Knights, let's go. I'm not feeling Knights right now. Let's go D.
I think it's really map dependent. In some missions that have three objectives, 3 to 4, they do fine. Missions that have 6, they're done. And it's kind of feel badsy because you can't build around that. There's not a lot you can do. You can't play around that fact. You just
right. And this is pure Knights. We're not talking about Imperium here, right? So
let's say
let's
go pure
just
for all
don't
of these.
Do it. Don't take pure Knights, guys.
Cool.
It doesn't work. Yeah, they're cool, and then like one guardsman gets moved and takes your objective away, and you don't score any points, and you're like, cool.
Well, you have to take that one warlord trait now that makes you count as 10 OBSEC models.
Right. So,
but also
you lose out on all
too.
your cool warlord traits.
Exactly. Okay. They did get some buffs, like they barely changed in points. Thermal, like the double thermal Chaos Knight is pretty good now that it just maxes its shot against most things.
Tier? Can we swap that? Okay, never mind. We're good.
But I don't know. The Chaos Knight Codex got it so bad. Like their version of the Castellan did not drop in points. It's just 130 more than the Imperial one.
Oh, great!
For some reason,
thanks.
Because they forgot to make its guns free.
Sick.
And also for whatever reason, if you take 2 of the same weapon, the second one just costs more than the first now.
Sure, why not?
So the Chaos Knights are just like, they're just done.
All
And
right.
also, almost everything that they do is a pre-game selection that you cannot legally do in the GT packet.
Right. Yeah, you
So you
can't
have to,
swap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to like say you're gonna slay the enemy biggest monster, at list creation, and then play 5 vehicle lists in a row.
Yeah, I think that the pregame selection rule is going to be pretty relevant for our next one, which is Sisters of Battle. I'm going to put them in A, but they have a lot of things that trigger at deployment that you get to pick, and they circumvent the pregame selection rule. And it should be noted, because we're on Tactical Tortoise right now, the T5S2 is not using the stupid GT packet pregame selection rule. You get to select your pregames before each game.
Best way to play. They're like GT packet does not seem designed for GT play.
No, it doesn't tell you how to run a GT. Yeah, it's like how to play casual games as if you were at a GT.
Yeah, like bizarre. It's structured match play rules. That's fine.
Yeah.
You want to play a competitive 1-on-1 game with your friend. Just don't name it the GT book.
Yeah. It's very silly.
Yeah. So Sisters.
Yeah, I think they're very good.
I think they do everything the edition wants to do. Yep. Like Valorous Heart for ignoring AP 1 and then 2 is just fantastic for just walking forward and not dying to the massive intercessors that you're going to see. And like Bloody Rose.
I mean, you're just doing what you were doing in 8th Ed. You're trading up super hard with Repentia.
Yeah.
You're standing in the middle of the table and not dying with your Valorous Heart stuff, and then you're just shooting everybody death with Exorcist, and that's what's up.
And like even the things that they lost, like losing the stretch distance on the Repentia, doesn't really matter when the things you're charging are just 12 inches in front of you now, sitting on an objective.
Yeah, you don't even need numerical dice those charges. Just get in there, ladies.
And save it for your miracle diced outflank one that just deletes your entire opponent's entire backline.
Yeah. Seems pretty good. I think arguments could be made for top tier, but I'm going to put them in A for right now.
Yeah.
Next up, we have this one Skitarii Ranger. How are we feeling about Adeptus Mechanicus?
I mean, given the power of the rest of the AdMech army, I got to assume this one guy is 40 to 50 points undercosted.
Yeah, probably. He's got a jetpack and can go into transport at the same time.
Yeah. He can make you fall back from him. So AdMech got blasted on points values for some things, but the Raiders are somehow, what are they, 16 points per model for a 3-wound thing that moves 12 inches and pre-game moves 12 with like a 2-shot mortal wound causing sniper rifle. Great, pretty good assault stats.
I'm not sure that the Raiders points cost seems less egregious to me now that they don't feel to me to be the type of unit that you want, because they just they immediately die. Like T3 4-up save. Like even if they have a bunch of wounds, like a thing looks at them and they explode.
Sure, but so do tactical Marines at like almost the same cost.
Yeah.
No, they're definitely not. They're not the strength point. They're just they're an example of cost efficiency that you can find all over the place in that book still. Yeah,
and I think a lot of people are worried. The stuff that was really super good in 8th edition, and we'll talk about this when we get to Eldar too. The stuff that was super duper good in 8th edition, I believe, got appropriately repointed, and people sort of assumed that made it unplayably garbage. But like, no, it's just like still hyper efficient, but sort of slightly less overcosted, or undercosted. So like
they also
Belarus energy cannons coming in at like 140 points or whatever they are. And now their 36-inch range isn't that big of a deal anymore. They're a sort of perfect intercessor killer, which is really where you want to be in the meta right now. They blast. They just have all sorts of benefits and are still worth their points, and I think are hard to kill and stuff.
Maybe even more importantly, Games Workshop really picked out the problem units that they were seeing appear in duplicate, in triplicate in every single list. But they sort of forgot that they're not the only things that were undercosted. That's there were a lot of second best in slot choices there, which were themselves drastically undercosted in AdMech, which you just didn't see because why
would
take
you
the Scorpions instead? Yeah. But the autocannon chicken walkers are obscene. Yeah, Iron Striders are obscene.
They follow right into a lot of the AdMech sort of design philosophy is just kind of being this ranged glass cannon, And that's what Iron Striders certainly are. They have a bunch of ablative wounds, but but they're like their toughness and saves aren't good, but they do so
They're a
much
cheap
damage.
glass though. That is some mass-produced glass. You can get a whole lot of that glass.
That
Then you got like the Cataphrons, which are just perfectly statted to just delete 50% of the meta in one turn.
Yep. And I think a big issue that AdMech had was people just like not engaging them because their direct fire shooting was the most damaging in the game. But now you have no choice. You cannot like sit back and kill some rangers and get kill more. You got to go to the objectives, otherwise you don't score, and AdMech just kill you. And then,
last week.
Also, they are fast. There's now that the Canticle has been changed, so you can't take a Martian Warlord and give your Styges army the Martian Canticle.
Yeah.
There's not really an impetus not to take Styges, so you have access to that pregame move, and your whole army's -1 to be shot back at. So you can also sit on objectives really reliably and be difficult to kill. Just have a bunch of efficient wounds on the table as well. So anyway, I think AdMech in a good spot, not as good as they were. I think that this entire, it seems to me like the striation of this tier list compared to 8th edition has compressed a little bit. So the top faction isn't quite as far and away more efficient than it was in 8th at the end of 8th.
This is like the visible light spectrum, right? It's what's like indigo to fuchsia or something. Whereas AdMech were like just gamma radiation. You could have 100,000 miles of lead and you'll stop like one particle of them.
Right. Like there was S through F tier, and then there was like a bunch of things above that were just numbers, and that's where AdMech were at. It was a binary code.
It's starting to get into like just odd symbols that you've never seen. They look like runes.
So speaking of runes, next one is Space Wolves, and we got a nice Ragnar Blackmane here, and oh boy,
put that guy right next to that knight.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's sounding like the rumor that I've heard is that their recent FAQ that made their entire army OBSEC was maybe a mistake, which makes a lot of sense because the reason being that they have an identical rule in the Space Marine book that only affects troops choices, but the way it's written in the Space Wolves book, it's not troops choice restricted, and so it seems like a pretty easy mistake to make if you're just looking at the latest wording of the rule. But this is why, GW, you don't put multiple rules with the same name and different wordings in your game. Because sometimes this happens.
Let's see if in the next codex they literally just give Space Marines objective security.
Yeah,
like they can stop doing this. Like,
let's just bring back USRs, please. I don't know how to feel about Space Wolves. I think from everything that I've been hearing, the points changes absolutely gutted them.
Yeah. They only had one viable build, and that viable build was including Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, which both just got like blasted on the Wolfen for that.
If Wolfen were objective secured, we could see maybe a C.
I don't know. I mean, like they're already just going to jump on an objective and kill everything off of it, and then you have your one super unit that holds the one objective. If Space Wolves stand on the mid board, they'll hold those things. They'll fight them all off as long as you're trying to engage them. But like, if they want to engage a gun line, they have to leave those objectives. And if they don't engage that gun line, they just get shot off the objectives because they're not point sufficient defensively.
Yeah. Yep.
So
for sure.
They have like one game plan.
And we've definitely seen. I've streamed games, where the Space Wolves sit on the deployment line and get absolutely crushed.
Like they'll do
by
great against
going second.
They'll do great against orcs. They'll do great against demons. Or a
lot of the armies at the bottom here. Spoiler.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they do okay against Deathguard. Like there's a lot of armies that really just want to hold and take the middle.
To that point, I think Space Wolves do have some very important tools in the meta currently. They have the ability to heroically intervene, which is with any unit, they
have Ragnar Blackmane. He's a tool.
They got Ragnar Blackmane. He's a big tool. Like you said, the Wolfen are sick. It seems to me Wolfguard Terminators are still probably pretty good. Just like using that combo to dump Combi Plasma on people seems fine. And all of the new stuff coming out isn't bad for them. Like they're just getting access to all the Indominus stuff and stuff like that.
Assault Intercessors just in like El Caminos feel like probably the meta list that they're going to be able to still summon.
Yeah, maybe.
It feels like they just do that worse than other armies.
Yeah, and the Impulsors got such a huge points increase. They're not efficient really anymore. That might be another one where it's just
repulsors
we'll
though.
lose 4 points of speed and gain 150 points of mass on us. Sounds good.
Yeah.
but you just have you have to not be putting melee aren't like models that are 50 points apiece on objectives and trying and
At least not ones that are
game to go well.
Just like 2 wounds.
Right.
Like
Yeah. So I think Space Wolves feel playable to me. I feel like I'm talking myself into a C grade here, but they don't.
I think they're very matchup dependent. They have some matchups they just do great in, and some matchups they do terrible.
How good you are at shooting at them, right? Like if you want to fight them in melee, they're going to kick the crap out of you. But other than that,
but they're bad against. They're going to be pretty bad against anything we're going to place into S, A, or B tiers.
Right.
Which means that they belong in D.
All right, I'm with it. Thousand Suns.
The losing multi smites is so devastating to them, or not multi smites. Losing what is it?
Yeah,
sorcerers, blah blah blah.
Brotherhood of Sorcerers or whatever.
Yeah, but like that's. I don't know how you build one of those armies. Like you can't piggyback off of like the one unit of Terminators. Like it's a good unit, but you have another 1,600 points of your army that needs to stand for itself, and like it can't do that.
So you do get the increased warp charge on Smite now for Thousand Suns. You aren't.
Was that did they FAQ that?
No, you get the increased warp charge, so it goes up as you cast.
Oh yeah, that's what yeah.
But what you can do is cast 4 smites with Magnus, and that's pretty good.
Well, for until 4 months from now, when they do a retroactive FAQ, remember that they forgot to
I don't know.
to make it so you can't do it anymore.
Yeah, so the rumor is that is a mistake, but I feel like it would have been corrected if it was. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, man. It's not a mistake involving a Mechboy workshop.
Yeah,
they're fast on those.
Well, because all the Magnus players aren't that mad that their that their smite goes up because they can do 24 mortal wounds in the psychic phase with that guy. It's just like, so far, Thousand Suns have not seemed bad.
Magnus has to be your warlord in that scenario if you're taking him into the Supreme Command. I just feel like in practical terms, they're just hard to utilize.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you do have the strat to give another thing a warlord trait, right? So, and you're probably you just want like devastating sorcery usually, right?
Well, I mean, but you need the time one for the Terminators though, don't you, to access the resurrections?
Maybe
you need to get access to like sorcerer's discipline.
You don't need it's not a warlord trait to unlock those or to unlock cults, right?
It's
just a
okay. Yeah, maybe then. Yeah, let's say lower B.
Okay, so can we slot it in between B? Oh, no.
No, you put things so the farther to the left they are in the tier list, the higher they are in the value.
Oh, okay. So
it's kind of like reading left to right. So like as we add more things to B,
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm feeling B. I think, and just to close off on Thousand Suns, I think their core combos are still good.
Yeah, it's just 3 Mutalith Vortex Beasts and like 200 of that bird
the
dude
classic
with the
Mutalith Vortex Beast spam, that was terrorizing the meta in 8th edition.
You take 3 per slot, get 9 in there.
Oh, perfect. But they have interesting combos. They can still get a 2+ invulnerable save on their Rubric Marines. That's sick. Magnus is less good because a lot of the terrain in the table doesn't work for him, which sucks. But he is just a big idiot and will kill a bunch of stuff by smiting a billion times. And
you also worry a lot less about just like the random one-hit kill relics or warlord traits that some armies have that just turn psychic armies off. But also, this army
isn't trapped inside in the psychic phase. Yeah,
you do have to worry that every time you face an AdMech player, though, assuming they don't have just like a 100 point Inquisitor, they're just going to be 15 points up on you because they just take hate the witch or whatever. The free 15 points because you just keep killing psychic units.
Oh, abhor the witch. Yeah. That is brutal.
And that's like rough.
That is super brutal. And I think, from what I've understood, I haven't actually watched any games with Thousand Suns yet. I think they're doing okay, and they're sort of pulling a kind of middling win rate from sort of what I'm seeing so far. But they also have some interesting combos that they're coming up with, and using their powers to buff units rather than just focus on dealing damage. Things like Weaver of Fates on like Achilles Land Raider, something that some people in in the Tactical Tours Discord were talking about, and it sounds really cool. That thing shoots a bunch of mortal wounds at people, and that's a way to get mortal wounds without doing psychic stuff. Magnus is still, I think, pretty solid, and I think in general it's they probably have some play. How about these buggy boys?
I don't know that either of us know much about Tyranids. It might be hard to comment.
Yeah, it would be very hard. So let's just put them in F and then keep going.
I'd say they're a solid B or C. I think their back line is actually one of the best in the game right now, and their front line is one of the worst.
Yeah,
I think it's just hard to make that work.
Yeah, and I will say I think a lot of I say a lot about Tyranids on this channel, so I'm going to try not to wax philosophical about them for too long. But like you said, their guns are super duper good right now. Their psychic phase is insane, and they have some good frontline units, like sort of that are mediocre. Tyranid warriors are okay. They're not great, but they won't they don't just fall over to a stiff breeze. But the other thing that they do that was good in 8th edition and now has become somehow more impactful is that they are just the fastest. They can move 3 times in a turn, which is super fast. And they aren't good at standing on objectives to score those primary points, but they will absolutely make sure that you are not standing on yours.
It's important to know that's not just like straight line speed. Like that's not just I have a 30 inch range threat range. It's like weird out of phase movement to move onto objectives or off objectives, or just like toe into obsec areas.
There's some weird, interesting interactions you can do, and it's like just beyond moving very quickly. It's like
controlled movement.
Yeah, a lot of their or some of their mechanics, I guess, interact very favorably with the new core rules. So, for example, you can metabolic overdrive a unit, and as long as it doesn't advance in either of those moves, it can still perform actions that start at the end of the movement phase. So you could potentially be moving like gargoyles or something 24 inches and then planting a banner. You can Hive Commander.
What does that look like in real life? Like, what are they doing?
It's like...
Does one of them just have like a SIG flag, and they're just like,
Yeah, dude. And that guy is just absolutely rocketing. It is... There's patriotic music playing in the background. It is a game of Halo. That is, as soon as you do that, a cutscene starts playing. It's really cool. It's strange to happen in real life. Like when the black bars sort of appear above and below your vision. It's bizarre, but
suddenly assets are a little bit higher quality.
My paint jobs get better for about 15-second spans of time. It's strange. But Hive Commander obviously is still a big deal. Swarmlord is, I think Swarmlord might be just the best HQ now. I
would contest Ultra Bird, the bird, just the Harvey Birdman over in the Demon Codex.
Oh, the big changer. He's only got 1 Exalt though now, right?
I mean, most of his power wasn't coming out of the Exalt anyway, though.
Yeah,
it was just the 3-up. The 3-up invul and the obscene warlord traits they had. For how absolutely rubbish the Nurgle warlord traits are, the Zinch ones are best in game.
Yeah. But I think, there's some if we were going to do an
Ragnar.
HQ, Ragnar's in there. Eldar Farseers are still ridiculous. There's some good ones.
But now charge, make himself advance and charge.
But Swarmlord
accidentally put him on a table.
Always had a weird issue where he would. If he was required to commit too early, your opponent would just kill them before the game was over, and he was you would sort of lose this big power piece. But now the fact that the game is 1 round less, a lot of times Swarmlord commits and then your opponent runs out of time to kill him, and he just gets to walk around the table for a while and kill everyone. He's a really good late gamer. Being able to move, just Swarmlord himself being able to move 18 inches before his charge makes him threat basically the entire table if he's in a relatively aggressive position. And then another interaction that's favorable with the core mechanics is that you can, and this existed in 8th Ed, but it didn't really matter as much, is that you can obviously move things after the psychic phase. So you could potentially take a unit of Zoanthropes and have them engaged in melee. They can do their 2-ish smites and blow a bunch of dudes up, and then you can fall them back out of melee with the Hive Commander. There's a lot of really interesting interactions like that Tyranids have. That said, they aren't very they aren't good at killing high resilience stuff. They sort of peter out on their damage output a little bit, which is always always an issue. And they aren't very resilient themselves. So they're trying to outplay you and be super tricksy. And usually, almost all of my games, like if I win by like 2 points. Like, yeah, we squeaked it by, you know?
Yeah, it's like the typical Tyranid tactic of getting tabled on 4 but winning on 5.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You win with 0 models on the table. Yeah. All right. Where do we go next? Is it Gene Stealer Cult? Is that the next one?
yeah, let's do that. Let's just keep with the theme. Why don't you drop the no?
You think D?
No.
You think C?
No.
S?
No, you're just going the wrong way.
F?
There you go. Put them right there.
Oh no.
Just these poor.
Yeah.
They're like Tyranids, but they don't have the good
multi-face
backline.
boys. Yeah. In my opinion, deep striking has become a lot less powerful now that the board is smaller, and so having your whole focus be around deep striking is just sort of like okay.
Skipping the first turn sucks now. You don't want to not be on the table on the first turn because you score at the beginning of 2.
They're like Tyranids, but they're not fast. Their guns are okay, but none of their stuff is high resilience, and that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling F for them, though. I'm feeling E. I'm gonna go with E. I'm feeling E.
I just don't.
Ridge Runners are really okay. They're not bad. They do a lot of damage, and they're not that hard to kill, or not that easy to kill. They're also not that hard to kill, but they are middling resilience for their point cost.
They have the guard issue too, where like the more terrain on there giving -1 to hit, like that's just such a dramatic loss in firepower to them.
Yes and no. And it's actually sort of helped a little bit by the fact that like they have a lot of ways to get +1 to hit. Or they have a couple ways to get +1 to hit. Not a ton, but they have a couple. So having the modifiers capped means that you're actually you can kind of deal with it a little bit better.
I also have no idea how you even build one of these armies because aren't you like you're capped at like 1 HQ choice per detachment? Did they FAQ that? They FAQ that, right?
No, you're capped at 1 of each. I think you can't spam like 10 Maguses.
Okay.
It seems like I think most of the Gene Stealer Cult lists I've seen have built in. You just have to go with 2 detachments, and they get like 4 or 5 characters in there, and it's fine. But the issue is that their core game plan of like dropping in, big acolyte bombs or whatever, and cutting people up with saws is just untenable. It doesn't do anything.
They went up way too much in points in 2019, and then they went up a lot in points in 2020 also. Like this last chapter approved, like they just applied the algorithm, and then the algorithm was real unfavorable to these like small sub 6.5 point units that had a bunch of upgrades that all went up in cost.
Yeah.
Like suddenly it's just like ooh, and then someone just points a blast weapon at them, and they're like goodbye.
I feel like we haven't put anything in C. I don't know what's in C.
I don't know, Tau. No, I'd say Guard are probably in C.
Oh yeah, let's just do Guard.
All right, let's do that.
There you go. I think Guard are pretty good. I think they can double move a billion infantry boys, and they have really good guns. The downside is that infantry boys are really easy to kill, and sometimes they'll die.
They're one of those like you can throw 20 guardsmen up onto an objective, but that's not exactly hard to clear. Like they used to win by having these kind of like oddly durable units for their points cost, with the infantry screening out their like firepower tanks, which weren't actually very durable for the cost, but like through a manipulation of strats and the Hammer of Sunderance double firing.
Yeah.
Like they could just pull it out. But now like the game kind of got flipped on its head. Like they need the durable infantry to run forward and take stuff, which they don't do. Like they'll get on the objectives, but then the intercessors who are already standing there just kick them back off again.
Right.
The tanks are like they kind of went up a lot, and they lost access to, like, I think of any army in the game except maybe orcs, the loss of Vigilus kind of hurts these guys the most.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, Emperor's Fist artillery company's gone, and that was so critical.
It feels to me like the artillery stuff, I don't know if it was doing as much work as it did in 8th. Like, a big issue with Guard is that it was just like sort of, it was like this oppressive thing to play against, where they were just like, all right, we're going to remove 10 models a turn out of line of sight. And like, it's not a lot, but it's annoying. And if you don't, if you don't do anything, we're just going to beat you slowly. And it feels to me like that artillery game plan isn't fast enough in 9th. So I don't know if that was the direction we were going anyway. I haven't seen many Guard lists on the table.
I just don't think like their firepower.
I agree. I agree though that losing Vigilus is like is a huge issue for them. I have seen that a lot of people are going into Scions. I think are kind of popular right now. and like plasma squads, just really sort of a bunch of core infantry and then really high lethality kind of specialist teams. And then you back that up with the long range guns.
It's
sort of. I mean, it's like guards. They just
anti-marine.
play their normal game plan, right? They're like, hey, we're gonna play some good old fashioned 40K, and we're gonna move, and then we're gonna shoot.
Now that the
And
game's
I hope
5
you
rounds,
moved
it's possible
off the
that
table.
Deathstrike never even shoots.
That's true.
It's like automatically shot on 6. I think,
Save that thing for Apocalypse, everybody.
The Manticore's kind of went up in cost, or not cost. Actually, almost it like stayed exactly the same where everything else went up, but the Manticore went up way much in stock. Like you're no longer worried about being useless on turns 5 and 6. Your main competition, which was just the double firing via the Emperor's artillery Vigilus company thing, like that's gone, and you just straight up out damage a Basilisk and Costless now. So that guy, I feel like that guy just got real nice, and also it always shoots 12 times.
Yeah. All right. So guard, I mean, they seem fine. I don't know.
Yeah, they're kind of middle of the road. I'll say.
Yeah, I think it's sort of. Did Ogren go up at all or a lot?
Yes, I believe they did.
Ogren, I mean, because that was kind of the unit I was afraid of in guard, to be honest. Like guardsmen, you can just kill guardsmen all day, but
Bulgren feel very like 2018 power to me. Like it feels like they got power creeped pretty hard. Like,
they did. I mean, they died, right?
In front
like,
of Stellan, but now they're just like.
But I think Bulgren are a good unit archetype in 9th edition. But if they got power, if they get points costed out, then it sucks.
Oh, they also got hit more than any other unit by the fact that once you start taking hits on a model, you have to keep taking hits on that one model, and you can't, which means you can't mix the slab shields and they're like just super good save shields anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of their efficiency methodology kind of like vanished. All right, let's put these dudes right up in that. No, get your Nikes on and jump up to A+.
For Grey Knights, this is the Grey Knight one.
Yeah.
For Grey Knights,
yeah, I see that. I see the color of that guy. I see that white background. It's the only one where they didn't.
Why are Grey Knights A+? Tell me about that.
I don't know. They're an army that just does everything the edition wants, which is just be hyper durable, walk forward, shoot things out of line of sight, and kill anything.
So I may be biased here because I'm recording this on Thursday, July 30th. Immediately after watching 19 Grey Knight Paladins be removed from the table casually in one turn.
And I'm biased because I came into that stream just after that happened and didn't see it. So.
Yeah, you missed it, dude. I don't know. Grey Knights feel fine. They don't. Not being able to. Not being.
Least. Come on. They are not worse.
So losing Smite spam is real super bad for them. The change to the character, the way psychic powers work, is not like sort of game breaking, but it exponentially increases the complexity of your psychic phase, which just becomes very difficult to sequence correctly. The fact that you have to exist on an objective for an entire round is usually is pretty rough, I think. But I do think that Grey Knights probably aren't really getting a lot of play right now, and I don't think that their sort of optimal game plan has been unlocked yet, because they certainly have the tools to play in the meta. Like they have, a dynamic insertion for 3-inch deep strikes. They have, big durable squads that they can buff up really hardcore. And the fact that they get more CP now means that they can keep their guns online longer, because usually their damage output is directly proportional to the amount of CP you can pump through their Stormbolters.
And just more turns of Transhuman on Paladins.
Yeah, exactly. That said, the fact that in the few games with Grey Knights that I've watched and played, the fact that they have to exist out in the open typically for an entire round means that a lot of those CP get sunk into keeping units alive. And that kind of drastically reduces your damage output, which is further compounded by the fact that you can't spam smites anymore. I don't know. I think the fact that they're so low model count works against them, and the fact that they're outside of Gate of Infinity, they're just kind of slow, derpy boys. They just seem okay. They seem okay, and I think a lot of times their damage output kind of falls flat in the late game, because either they run out of CP or they start shooting like big stompy things, and they just bounce off of Stormbolters at that point, and they just keep getting killed. I do
want to say they have a pretty preferential matchup into probably one of the other S tier lists, which is going to be Deathguard. I think we might both agree. Maybe throw them into the A, and that's. Just like an entire army of strength 2 Stormbolters that can sit on -1, like will kill most of the Deathguard army pretty quickly,
Yeah,
and then like all their demon engines just get like
yeah.
all their demon engines just get yeeted right into space.
Well, not so much anymore, right? Because your smites are way worse now.
Well, yeah, but they have they have 8 wounds, 12 wounds. You just don't have to do very many of them to
Yeah.
kill one.
Yeah. It's not the
they're, like,
same,
they
like,
have
sort of
very few
the
wounds.
extreme damage that they did to demon engines. I mean, it's still good,
Yeah.
and they get all their buffs, and they're good at killing like singular, kind of mid-level vehicle targets pretty well.
I mean, they're pretty good at casting like 4 smites a turn. Like even with the the fact that it gets one more. I mean, you're getting up to what, +3 on
Yeah,
casts?
you can get.
It's not hard.
You could probably manage a couple, and if you have like a nullifier matrix in play to bump one up by 1, and you have the strat for +1 to cast, like you can make it work for sure. But it's a lot less consistent than it was.
Yeah.
I also think that Sisters of Battle kind of like really like Sisters of Battle being so good right now also kind of does exactly the opposite of what they do against Deathguard.
They do in the T5S2 format, where they can still actually take the interesting warlord traits and like Sisters subfaction bonuses against you on a pregame basis, but like no one's
No, but
probably
Sisters
not
pick their
taking
subfaction bonuses at the start of the game anyway, so they can just pick if they run into Grey Knights.
We're not taking that 18-inch relic for the
probably not.
Psychic nerf. They're probably not. I mean, there's a lot of psychic hatred in that codex that like they do have to pick early on too.
Yeah. But just even everything being able to deny it +3, I think still can really screw GK over. And just being able to trade up. I think even if they didn't have any psychic denies available to them, just being able to trade up like extremely hard into paladins is just like
Repentia are pretty good at that.
Yeah. How about this Dark Horse faction?
I gotta say, they should be sitting next to Gene Cult in the F tier. But you accidentally put Gene Cult in the E tier, which is just weird.
No, I talked myself into it. They have Ridge Runners, dude. Ridge Runners are sick. I mean, they're okay. Ridge Runners are one step above.
I guess Drukari do not have Ridge Runners, but they do have 11-point Cobalite Warriors.
They're only 9 points per month.
Okay, so it was 9. All right. I mean, that's still
like witches are 11. I think that's what you're thinking of. Oh, that is a lot though for a big idiot. Yeah, most of those equivalent models aren't Banshees 15.
Were they 15?
Aren't they just like absurdly overcasted?
Yeah, there was another person at the
Howling
hospital
who
actually died
points.
because he saw the cost of a
15
Banshee.
15 points for a Howling Banshee. Get out of here. Leave.
They strike first in combat.
Oh, good. Thank you. I mean, that's a good ability to have, but you're never going to survive because you're toughness 388 with a
Also, you strike
save.
first when you charge anyway.
Yeah.
It's not a good ability to have.
So, they got... Yeah, it's not a good look for Drukari.
No. They just got smashed on points. Like their game plan could have been okay, but
I mean, all of the it's kind of unfortunate because the cool witch like stuff and the cool Cabalite warrior stuff is all sort of untenable with the core rules as they are. Melee infantry are just sort of not very good, and being able to zip around the table with the little venom lists and stuff like that. It doesn't really work because you have to stand an objective for an entire round with a venom, which is
also the way you now take dedicated transports is it's not based on every single unit now, right? It's like
it's based on
just
infantry.
Yeah.
So I mean, you'll still be able to take. You won't be able to take sort of the extra venoms that you used to be able to.
Yeah, you can't make an army composed almost entirely of venoms.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Their homunculus stuff is good, right? The big boys, the big Talos and the Rax and stuff.
The Taluses are good. Rax, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say they were bad, and now they're worse because they just got more expensive. They don't do anything. They're a good 5-man backline standing unit, but like they have to hold something.
They're very obnoxious to kill, but they're not that hard to kill. They're just a 4+ invulnerable save usually. And a bunch of bolters will kill them eventually. And then it looks like all the big stuff went up a bunch of points. So you're paying, it looks like 100, plus points for a Talos, which is just too many. There's probably a couple lists that you can make work, but it seems like such an uphill fight that, like, I don't know, just play Craft Worlds.
It feels like if you're playing them, you're just souping in some element of that army into one of the other Eldar factions. Yeah,
it was kind of funny. Like, back in the day, you would soup them into Eldari, and then no one would ever attack the Eldari stuff because the Drukari stuff was so much easier to kill. And that was sort of a buff because, like, the Eldari stuff you want to keep alive longer because it does more damage or whatever. But now you have to be resilient in order to be relevant. and so just being easier to kill is just like a death sentence.
Yep.
But speaking of the issues with Drakari, let's move to some special issues.
Speaking to S+ tier armies here.
I'm gonna go with A.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. They have bad matchups into tank walls.
Death, watch me put these people in A. I think Deathwatch are sick. I keep talking about them, and
At least
I keep talking about them. Like on AOWPI, I played like one game with Deathwatch, and I was like, "This faction's so cool!" And it hasn't changed since 8th edition. They're just cool. They're just cool Space Marines.
They're better now since 8th edition. Like their range deficit doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Like a ABR Intercessor might as well have an infinite range.
Yeah. If you take an ABR Intercessor unit with a Thunderhammer, it increased by 5 points.
Yeah, like
from its 8th edition incarnation. It's the efficiency is off the chain for Deathwatch.
I think this army is just obscene.
I think you do have to. People were still surprised when I was talking about how great Deathwatch was, and they're like, "Well, but Deathwatch veterans got nerfed so hard. Like they got points increases up the wazoo. They got the change
weren't
to.
Even good I never understood that.
They had the change to. The wound allocation rules where you can't like split wounds between your Terminators and your Storm Shields anymore. And I was like, well, that doesn't matter. You're not going to take Storm Shields. What is that garbage? Get that out of here. You just take 50 Intercessors.
Yeah, that was always like Deathwatch were like the last refuge of the like anti-Primaris squad.
Right.
We're like, no. Real Marines are 5'4".
Yeah.
And they would just like give them a big shield and a hammer, and then they would lose all their games.
Right.
Whereas like there was 80 ABR Intercessors.
It felt like a very fundamentally like there was such a purely 8th edition list that was like if I were to encapsulate an 8th edition list, either it would be like the Castellan list or it would be like the Deathwatch Warden list, where it's like a like a Night Warden and then like 30 or 40 Deathwatch veterans, and then like you soup in like a subcom of Smash Captains or something from Blood Angels.
Yeah, where you look at this army and you're like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, like what is going on here? And it felt so quintessentially like it wasn't like there wasn't really any. There's no complex combos to it. Yeah. There's not like there's not really a list building justification. You just take the things that are most efficient at every category at doing their thing. Like this Knight is the best at shooting tanks to death. These Smash Captains are the best at punching people, and these Deathwatch veterans are the best at shooting dude guys.
Other than that blessed 8 months in 2019, when there was like kind of like a genuinely interesting set of meta options, I feel like that was most of 8th. Like, certainly at the end of 8th, it's like, which tank army where everything's 50 points under costed do you want?
But Deathwatch in 9th edition, I think, has changed fundamentally. The fact that
90 ABR Intercessors.
I don't know how the meta slept on. I guess they needed Intercessors to get a drastic reduction in points cost, but in order to be more fieldable. But as soon as that happened, how the meta didn't immediately shift to taking a billion Deathwatch Intercessors shocked me. And we saw it a little bit towards the end of 8th edition. Like when the Deathwatch White Dwarf supplement came out, people started to gravitate towards them, and then like AdMech kind of pushed them out again. And AdMech was kind of tough for Deathwatch, but I don't think it was unwinnable, and Deathwatch would just outplay them a lot of times.
Their primary weakness was just tank walls.
Right, like big things that Hellfire Round didn't work on.
That's basically just was the end of it. And that was like two-thirds of armies.
And now, even if you hit a tank wall, you're just going to obsec the objectives out from under them and just bury them in primary objective points. It's there, So to explain the sort of the power of Deathwatch, in my opinion, right now is they play the game like you mentioned before in the range band where all of the objectives are. So most of the objectives on the table are between 12 and 18 inches apart from one another. And as soon as you're within 24 inches of a unit of Primaris Intercessor, like Deathwatch Intercessors, if you're not a vehicle, you're freaking dead, dude. They just play their raw efficiency, and they have a very simple game plan that works almost universally. The way I describe it to people is that Intercessors are probably one of the most efficient unit choices in the game, and we'll see how the meta counteracts that, because I think it's starting to. And Deathwatch Intercessors are the best, so you just have the best Space Marines guys. They do have a little weird idiosyncrasies, like their characters are pretty bad. They have old school rerolls. They don't soup it really well anymore because they cost a bunch of CP. And so they don't really get like the punchy characters that they used to. So you kind of have to leverage your like sergeant with Thunderhammers to do.
You need more Thunderhammers on the list, basically. Instead of one Thunderhammer and a man with a jump pack, you just have like 5 Thunderhammers.
That said, you can teleport Eradicators, so that solves a lot of problems right there.
It really does.
That unit is ridiculous and stupid. Holy crap.
Yes.
They there a lot of the points breaks to Primaris stuff was just copy pasted over to Deathwatch without really thinking about it. So you can take 5 man like a unit of 10 Primaris Deathwatch with 5 intercessors and 5 inceptors with plasma. And that's just fine. Like you have like 10 ablative wounds for 5 inceptors to just chill around and shoot people with plasma guns with. You can do the same thing with aggressors. It's a little bit more expensive.
Being able to advance and fire the ABRs just because you have one aggressor sitting in there means that they're like
that's
you're
pretty
effectively
good.
threatening the opponent's back table edge.
Right. And then also like big aggressor squads are pretty good at just fighting in the middle of the table and just punching people. Their aggressors are objective secured. Like a lot of people don't think about that, but as soon as you're like, oh, there's 15 wounds of T5 aggressor wounds on this objective and I can't easily take it out, it gets really awkward. They have a million ways to get +1 to wound. They can get for 2 CP +1 to wound against any battlefield role in the game. And it just like it increases the efficiency of those like short ranged high volume weapons to just out into the stratosphere.
You put ABR intercessors, you point them at a thing, you use the strat to auto hit for 30 hits, you stand them next to a lieutenant, and then they'll score 29.7 wounds with average dice. And it's like,
I mean, you don't need a lieutenant; they just have it all the time. Because they're Deathwatch.
Oh yeah, right. They just do that. Right. The unit just puts 30 wounds in a fixed turn
so
at -1. It's like
and I've been kind of delving into the Deathwatch like random
down to F now, please.
Yeah. I've been putting sort of I think I am kind of talking orcs into F tier.
Or the
I'm thinking about it.
Or Gene Cult, because
what do orcs do?
And the landing squad, and then you pick them all up.
Oh yeah, that's brutal. When that happens,
someone takes 10 of their in-game minutes doing this whole big plan to drop these dudes,
and then
they
they
just
die.
immediately pick them back up again.
And then you use the strat, and then against the orcs at least use the strat to reduce their charge.
And then they charge an inch.
Oh boy. So Deathwatch I think are very, very, very good. I think they're very good. Speaking of other types of death that we have on the table, let's move away from watching. Let's move away from watching the death and go to guarding the death.
Yeah.
How do we feel about guarding?
It's less voyeuristic. It's more okay. I feel like maybe drag them to the left of Mechanicus.
They're the best faction in the game?
Yeah. I mean, until we hit some pretty oily men. These guys are pretty oily, though. Like, let's
well, they're
also,
greasy.
the AdMech themselves are also probably pretty oily.
It's just a big puddle of oil at the top there. Gross. Deathguard. The goal of 9th edition is to stand on a place. And Deathguard are the best at standing on places.
I am currently wilding with a list that is 1,018 points of Deathguard.
In fairness, it's Nurgle, right? So it's like we should be saying just chaos, I guess. But we can't. There's no chaos option on here.
Yeah, I would say like definitely nothing in the chaos codex is up that high.
Chaos.
Like nothing.
Nailed it.
Like I don't think you put regular chaos into that Nurgle book. I think you just sub in some demons.
Yeah, so I think chaos. Yeah, we probably can't really rank the soups in this ranking very well. So, but I think chaos.
Talk about them,
Deathguard by themselves, maybe like here or here.
I'd put them after Mechanicus by themselves. But
Deathguard, as soon as you soup them in, Deathguard, like a Nurgle style chaos soup, just gets rocketed into the stratosphere.
Because their primary weakness is just a slight inefficiency in the troop slot,
right?
Which just gets fixed when you do that. And also access to virulent, virulent blessing is just an obscene buff. More like a miasma pestilence source that doesn't have to come off of your demon prince.
Right.
What else you get in there? You get
they just they also they punch really hard in sort of that close range bands. The blight bomb combo, the blight grenade combo is really good if everyone's close together. The fact that they're just melee is just randomly.
Flails are just the flail unit is just that will just sink 1,000 points off of the opponent's army in one phase if you get the right psychic buffs off onto it.
Yeah.
And also they just have these strange wombos coming out of various points of the book. Like the Psychic Awakening was really good for Deathguard list building options.
Yeah.
They went from having kind of a non-functional mono list to having there's a wide variety of options within that codex that are all competitively viable. Like the list I run is just like weird, but also I've seen people running psychic spam lists. I've seen people just like maxing out on blight lords.
Yeah, I've seen just plague marines in transports.
Yeah,
I've seen just like random stuff. And it's all fairly efficient. It's all extremely hard to kill, and it all hits relatively hard. It's just it's so impossible to like stay on an objective next to a Deathguard army because you're gonna plink it for 2 wounds. It heals one of them and then kills you.
It's
like,
it's very awful. Unexpected too. Like I've made the mistake myself assuming that
the
you
base
damage
stats of any Deathguard unit or any Deathguard model are like just super misleading.
Straight up, the stats on my blight haulers are just wrong. That's not what their stats are. Like their half of their abilities are just buffs to the new like numbers in their stat line.
Yeah.
And that unit went down in cost.
All right.
So good.
Well, is it time to move to these bloody boys?
I think it is time to go to the D tier again. No. I wish I could drag this myself, but I'm just watching the screen share right here. This is just make me mad right now.
What do you think, Blood Angels? Down
I think
here?
C. Probably C.
C?
Yeah,
What?
they don't have. So they suffered pretty bad from some points rises. A lot of their most efficient troops, like Sanguinary Guard, did not deal with it very well.
Oh no.
And they don't have a lot. They don't like. They honestly like. What even is a not Death Patrol? What's it? It's a black armor.
Death Company. Death Company.
Yeah, Death Company. Yeah. Like, what is a Death Company model?
The old Doom Patrol. There's a robot guy in there. There's a lady who changes her shape.
If I was going to ask you, how many points more than an Assault Intercessor is a Death Company model? What would you say?
2.
They're like 3 points more.
No, they're the same cost.
Are they the same cost?
They're 2 points more if they have a jump pack.
Okay.
No, they're 1 point more if they have a jump pack.
Less damage output,
less
resilience.
So I think they do have... The reason that I like them a little bit higher is
strats.
that their Alpha Strike potential is like sort of insanely crippling. That
only works if you go second now, though. Like, you're not jetting past all the objectives to like face plant into somebody's front line with your whole army because you're not standing on anything at that point. And if you go second, you get shot to death. It's just
for sure.
This like first turn assault Alpha Strike concept feels kind of dead.
Yeah, maybe. I think we'll have to see it. I don't know if I agree with them in C tier. They feel super dangerous. Maybe I would put them like at the top of C tier.
Yeah, I'd say top. Like their other game plan, which is just mass deep strikes, is just like
the deep strike game plan is harder
points,
for sure. Just melee in general being worse it kind of sucks, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be games where
they're great at it. Yeah. It's just it's worse in the ways that they specifically do it.
Right. But I think there's going to be games where you're playing against a Blood Angels player. They go first with 10 Death Company, and they table you on like turn 3. And there's just not like they Forlorn Fury. They move in advance. They assault your whole army. They fight twice, and like they kill so much shit that it doesn't matter that they're not on the objectives.
What they'll do is they'll hit your screening unit. They won't dare to charge the unit behind it because of the new charge rules. They'll kill the screening unit, be outside of like activation for attacking the second unit because they didn't declare it as a charge because they couldn't for safety reasons, and then like they're just standing there. It feels like if they're going to table you, it's because they deliberately went second and they're playing on one of these very well crafted and well thought out TTS2 T5-2
T5S2 nailed it.
T5S2.
Good job. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
A for effort.
Maps where you're actually taking into account just ranged Alpha Strike advantages right now, and a little bit of asymmetry in that terrain design.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like a good map.
We'll see how it goes. I haven't seen any games with Blood Angels being played, and I certainly feel like there's the opportunity for them to be super good. But it depends on how it shakes out, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of other factions that are great at melee Alpha Strikes, here's Tau. How are we feeling about Tau? I'm feeling like in here.
I have no idea. I don't know what they do. Like, do they just tow into an objective and shoot you off of it completely with the same units they were using previously?
Yeah.
Okay, that seems like a pretty good plan.
Yeah, I think they just lost. Like their lists became less. they sort of cut all the chaff out of their list because they don't need it anymore to generate CP.
Yeah.
So like it's just a Tau list, but there's no
they're less degenerate. Yeah. Their lists are like way less degenerate now because they like drones got smacked for cost.
Super expensive. Yeah, everything's going to be easier to kill because, as far as I know, gun drones basically are the same cost that shield drones used to be. Yeah. And shield drones are just like hyper expensive. So you just probably won't be taking many shield drones, and you just have a billion gun drones, and so you don't have that damage 5+ ignore to fall back on, but your drones also get to shoot, so that's cool.
And the previous weaknesses of Tau wasn't melee. It was just getting outshot by more efficient armies. Yeah. Which like isn't really the case anymore. So like that Deathguard army will just sit on those objectives and win, but like
but it's not gonna feel good
fast enough. Yeah.
If those 3 Riptides can like just blow you up, and you're like, oh, I guess we lose. Yeah. They also have pretty decent indirect fire, just like smart missile systems. Not
are smart missile systems blast weapons though?
No, they're just 4 shots, I think. Not being able to fall back and shoot is really bad for them. But in the defense of Tau, if you had to fall back in 8th edition, what the heck were you doing, bud? Why did your Riptide get touched by anything, dude? I think like Tau lost a lot of resilience and they lost a lot of their flexibility. Yeah. But
they lost a lot of predators too. So
and also that is definitely fair. And being sort of the only faction with sort of this insane melee denial remaining makes them, I think, really interesting because there's going to be a lot of like they get to win a bunch of matchups like incidentally.
Like Space Wolves.
Like any of these factions down here that sort of rely on getting infantry, onto objectives. Like Tyranids. We have Tyranids in here, and even Sisters to a lesser extent.
I feel like Tyranids love the new Tau without the shield drones. You just point Hive Guard at those Riptides, and those Riptides fall off the table.
Riptides are just as good at killing Exocrines as Exocrines are good at killing.
I said Hive Guard. I said Hive Guard.
Hive Guard will eventually die. Like Hive Guard usually survive a couple turns against the Tau army, but the SMS gets there eventually, and
all things eventually die.
Yeah, eventually the entropy of the universe takes out the Tyranid army. But the difference is that a Riptide can do that while standing on an objective, and a Hive Guard cannot. So I think
standing on a back table objective.
Maybe, but not usually.
Yeah, that's true.
If you play on one of those sweet T5S2 maps, usually the back table objectives have pretty clear lines of sight to them, and you will lose your Hive Guard.
Speaking of armies that are pretty good at standing on objectives while being behind things, you ever wonder why this dude just has 2 glowing eyes in the middle of his like Wraithbone helmet?
Isn't it like a screen? Isn't it like a motorcycle helmet with a visor?
So he's like one of the one of the Daft Punk artists.
Yeah.
All right. Accept that.
Yeah, Wraith singing is just playing dubstep.
Move those Grey Knights up into at least the end of B, not the end of C. Grey Knights are not at the end of C.
Start of C?
Yeah.
Middle C. All right, I'll start to C.
Okay. I'm still mad, but that's better.
How about that? Oh.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Also, I would say Space Wolves are above Knights.
Space Wolves are above Knight. Okay. I'll take that. Yeah. Why can't it only move sometimes? You can only move things down. You can't move things up. Rude tier maker. Eldar, I think they have lost very little of their hyper efficiency that they had in 8th edition. Expert Crafters is really dumb, and all of their stuff. It's just they're just like they were as good as, if not maybe a little bit less good than AdMech in 8th ed. And the 2 factions got the same points increase, and then they're just the same.
They play a different game that might be a little bit more viable now than it was, but their ability to just bad touch to death a unit a turn, basically no matter what it is, and select it is going to play in very well into a meta that might end up being defined by these ultra durable heavy infantry units.
Yeah,
you'll get a Blightlord Terminator squad, and that squad will still get removed by a fully buffed up Shining Spear squad. I think the thing that would keep them out of S, which might come up later, is just there's a specific stratagem owned by a specific oily golden man that basically just turns their army off. But otherwise, I mean, outside of that, I mean, they're just they're highly efficient. They can strike anywhere. They have a weakness where they don't really stand on midfield objectives very well. So oftentimes the game will kind of devolve into both players holding 2 objectives, but no one ever holding more.
Their game plan is
okay with that.
Is to grind you down with raw math. The superior mathematics of the Eldar, make their appearance as they kill your army with things that are drastically undercosted. Once you're dead, then they move all of their artillery pieces move 16 inches and just stand on every objective. And their last 3 turns are like 10-pointers.
They also have the Hornet, which is like the cutest little muffin.
Oh yeah, he's adorable.
And also, it's just like so.
So their light tanks are really efficient right now. I think right now the meta is kind of moving towards light vehicles. We're seeing a lot of land speeders come out of Space Marines. Speaking of which, Space Marines aren't on this list. I'm just noticing now.
Oh. Uh-oh.
It's fine.
Why? Why are they not there?
That's a pretty important one to have on this list.
Yeah.
Doesn't
even have Aeronautica Imperial.
There's no Aeronautica. What the heck, dude? Yeah, they're just going to kill you, and then they're going to move a billion inches and get onto the objectives. Yeah. It seems to me... Like, I just played against Shining Spears, and they felt fine, and their Psychers are... Sometimes they had some issues where their psychic powers were kind of limited in range. Like, they would have to get the characters within 24 of you, and that was, like, a little awkward. But that's really easy now. They can really dominate the center of the table and hide behind really sort of efficient
It's hard to doom and jinx something on the opponent's table edge.
Yeah.
Which was the issue against Mech, but not too much of an issue now.
Yeah. And so they just keep playing like the mechanized game plan where they shoot a bunch and then they run on all the objectives. Like it's basically what they were doing in 8th. They're just still good at doing it.
They're not gonna like max out every game now because they're not really maxing out their primary very easily. It feels like the games with Eldar will be tighter, but they'll have like a much safe, a safe margin.
Yeah, the goal I think is to table you and then max the primary on like they'll score 5 points on turns 1 and 2 and maybe 3, and then they'll try to get 15 on the other in the last 2 points to max it. That's like the game plan. It's obviously a very dangerous game plan because if your opponent hits back just as hard, you can lose a bunch of stuff. But they'll still just like play they'll just grind you out by putting falcons on things.
Or if the opponent can just be Deathguard and just stand in the middle of the table for 5 turns.
Yeah, there you go.
Then you got
I don't know, Doom and Jinx
points. They got 45.
So.
It is pretty good. Yeah. Although I don't know, man. If they got those demons in there and you miscast once.
Yeah, that's true.
Although that never happens because you have a 2+ save against.
Yeah, the first
miscast wounds.
So I like Eldar. How do we feel about
Speaking of chaos?
Speaking of chaos, got him. What a relevant meme.
Yeah.
How about those Dank Angels, dude?
Well, they have the worst Primarch, so let's just put them in D. But like, they're just Space Marines that are mostly worse, but they have the drop Plasma Squad is obscene with them. So
I'm feeling kind of B-ish.
Pretty good.
I'm feeling B-ish for them. Maybe somewhere in here.
I'd put them, just given the fact that they just have all the Marine units and most of the Marine strats, I'd probably put them at the top of B. I feel like they are stronger than Thousand Suns.
Yeah, and also like things like Inceptors getting a big points decrease means that like Weapons of the Dark Age is really powerful.
Yeah, Plasma Inceptors are one of the most cost-efficient units in all of the game currently.
There, 40 points for that guy, dude. Yeah. Oh, what a bargain. Oh boy!
But you can't really, unlike previous runs of Eldar or Mechanicus, you can't make an army out of that. That's not like the kind of stat line you can max out and win a game with. Yeah. So it's really just a single really good. They're necessarily just playing like 200 points up.
Yeah.
Because that unit is super undercosted, but like, you can't float on that. It's just really good.
Right.
And then like Samael, they have like really good vehicle-based HQ choices that are solid.
Yeah, I mean. There's some interesting interactions that I actually didn't know beforehand, and they've been revealed to me in the last couple of days. Talon Masters are really stupid.
Shows up and shows you on Instagram. Check this out.
Talon Masters got a points break somehow. In
they didn't do the math on those
right. They also got the ability to shoot in melee. They can't fall back and shoot now, which is nice, but I don't think makes a huge difference because they can just shoot you while you're there. But they also they sort of screen for each other. the way that Lookout Sir is worded, and this might get changed, who knows, but the way Lookout Sir is worded currently is if you're a vehicle character, you can trigger Lookout Sir on other characters, but you don't count for the purposes of being closer. So if you have, for example, if you have two Talon Masters right next to each other, if your opponent's next to those Talon Masters, they can just shoot them normally because neither of them counts as being a unit that's closer and blocks for them. But if you have any other unit that would normally be normally be eligible to block via Lookout Sir, it is turned on by two Talon Masters standing next to each other. So, for example,
I'm turned on by two Talon Masters standing next to each other.
So if you have like two, oops, I don't know where I just went. Oh. If you have like two Talon Masters right standing next to each other within 3 inches, and then you have like 3 scouts standing like a billion inches away from them, as long as those two Talon Masters are sitting together, the scouts will look out Sir for them.
Is that a dude with glasses wearing a tie?
Yeah, you nailed it.
Sick.
I'm so good at drawing with a mouse. That's why I'm an artist.
Yeah, I feel like interactions like that will probably get FAQ'd.
It is a bizarre interaction, but I think there are times where it's going to be extremely relevant.
It happens. Yeah, stuff like that happens with like with some of the monster ones too. Right. There's like, and you can also there are strange interactions where you can like I think Chaos does this pretty well currently. You'll have like 2 Demon Princes and you just make the squad in front of them untargetable via one of their contrivances that can do that, and then you also literally just can't shoot the 2 characters as well, and you just have this like unshootable field.
So I mean, it's basically you just get sort of like a like 8 dead character protection with an asterisk next to it. So yeah, I mean they're just like pretty solid Space Marines, right? They're just basically Space Marines.
Pretty much, yeah. I feel like they're less efficient regular Space Marines that have a couple of like very specific, very powerful units or interactions that they can like lean on.
Next up, we have Chaos Space Marines.
I have no idea where to put this.
Yeah, I think most of the Chaos Space Marine stuff that I've ever talked about or heard about is either just Deathguard or it's yeah. So I don't know. Chaos Space Marines pure. Possess bombs, I guess, are okay. So like I don't know, maybe somewhere in here.
I don't know if starting with 6 CP in the edition right now
works
very well.
I think from as far as I know the composition is much different. Like it's sort of multiple units of 10 rather than like a big unit of 20, and you just play this like sort of trading game. I guess
Lord of Skulls actually still works, ironically.
I think a lot of their combos from I'm talking myself into a higher ranking here. Get Blood Angels out of here. A lot of their combos from 8 Dead probably still work, are just slightly less efficient in points, and they kind of have to pick and choose what they do. They don't get like you can't play like the triple battalion Chaos Space Marine list like you could in 8th and just like get 3 separate legions of like incredible efficiency. But you get to do 1 or 2 of those and like do it pretty well.
A lot of their like specialist units that you were kind of leaning on in those more mono faction detachments though, like Noise Marines, just went up a lot in cost.
So that is an issue as well, and I think it remains to be seen how well they survive that. So I'll put an asterisk there. Like I said before, I haven't seen pure Chaos Space Marines on the table, or even sort of a Chaos Space Marine centric soup. It's usually something Deathguard oriented so far.
People feel very excited for like the Demon Engine based lists, but none of those units feel particularly efficient to me. Like what was it? Scorpion Hoodman.
Hoodman.
That guy is 200 points now, which is just yikes.
Wait, is it a Defiler? Is that what you're talking about?
No, the Lord, the HQ choice on the Spider, or it's like a Scorpion, right?
A Lord Discordant.
Yeah, Discordant Lord.
Good old Scorpion Hoodman.
He rides a Scorpion and wears a hood. I don't see him selling much of Discord. Mostly he just sits behind a.
Well, and that's because he has an aura that gives -1 hit for vehicles. That's why.
When has that ever been used?
Actually, I've seen it a lot. It's really powerful. So anyway, Chaos Space Marines probably okay. Probably okay. Yeah. How about Chaos Demons? The other flavor.
This gets weird because mono demons are just a solid E. I wouldn't put F. I'd say I'd actually put them probably at the top of E. I think they're better than Orcs and certainly much better.
They push Orcs down.
I mean, I think Orcs and Gene Cult should just be an F.
Gene Cult have Bridge Runner.
No, I guess orcs should be an E. Gene Cult should straight up be an F. Like Gene Cult don't have a functional game plan. You can't win the game with just race cars. Like that's
says you.
You need
You're
the
gonna win
rest
the
of,
race with the race cars though.
You're playing 1,100 points down. Nothing else in that army does anything right now.
So,
speaking of the army we were talking about, yeah. So demons have this interesting thing where they actually move into other armies really well. Like there's a plugin for just like a giant bird and then like some horrors, which actually plugs into a lot of chaos builds really well. They have a plugin for just Nurgle demons to plug into Deathguard. Works really well. As the mono faction, the Tzeentch army can work. I feel like it's better than the armies that you make out of the list below them. It might be better than Knights, but like mono Slanesh, I feel like no, they actually have probably the best horde army in the game. With just like Demonettes are still 7 points. Demonettes are 1 more point than cultists and are like pretty great.
Oh, man, they're also tough as 3,
but like
with a 5 up.
Yeah, but they're like 7 points, and an orc's toughness 4 with a 6 up.
Yeah, I don't think orcs are the best horde army in the game.
And you can like they have access to warp surge. They move really fast. They have a lot of contrivances to keep you in combat.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like I don't think it's great. I mean, like they're an E. I'm not saying we should add moves in the C.
I think Chaos Demons definitely have some play. It seems like it's a lot of the units that we talk about being really good in the Chaos Soup list come from demons. Like they don't do the damage, but they have the backbone to back it up.
I would argue that a mono Nurgle list could float up into the C tier. Like there are armies on that like a guard army does nothing to just like just a pile of plague bears. Yeah, like Gene Cult do nothing to that. Knights just lose instantly. I don't know can Tau clear that? I don't think Tau do very well against it into that. I don't really think that Thousand Suns do very well into that, but then it loses so badly to Deathwatch. Grey Knights.
Yeah, and anything that you start like as soon as you start skewing to kill that type of infantry, like you can kill it.
Or if you're like Admech or Deathguard, where you just ambiently skew into being able to kill that kind of infantry super well.
Right.
Like mono Khorne might if there's a tier after F, and then there's like another 30 tiers after that.
Yeah, it's like it's like how Admech were in 8th edition, where they get their own symbols up above S tier. It's like mono Khorne has that down below F tier. Yeah,
there's just like a poop emoji down there somewhere.
Poor Khorne. Yeah, every time I see a Bloodthirster on the table, like, and it does nothing and it dies, it's so sad.
They do have an 80-point Leman Russ though, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, the little battle cannon chariot guy.
Yeah, so like you a mixed detach, which is just Nurgle and then just a Vanguard detachment of 3 of the Khorne chariot gun thing.
Yeah.
And then probably just a dude carrying the Locust of Khorne to give him +1 strength.
Yeah.
And like that's like a 310 point module for 3 battle cannons that are like strength 9.
Yep.
That's pretty good. That can move and shoot. It's pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems okay. Definitely doesn't seem super high on the list though, and that's why we put them in E tier.
Yeah. Unless you're mixing them with 9 Blight Haulers, then it feels great.
Speaking of stuff super high on the list, how are we feeling about Necrons? Probably yes, right?
I feel like we should have the Space Marine symbol so we can discuss an army that exists and just not talk about an army that's about to be completely rewritten within like the next 3 weeks.
Necrons in their current form feel not very good.
No, I would say E tier. Maybe worse than orcs. I honestly don't really know how they currently function. Like nothing in Indomitus helped them in the slightest.
Yeah.
Most of the things in Indomitus were actually pretty bad.
Hey, just the immortal character guy that lets you follow back and shoot. That guy's pretty good.
Zarek is actually pretty solid. Like the Psychic Awakening guy.
Big punchy boy.
Yeah, well, he's a big punchy boy, but he also gives like one of your squads a permanent buff every turn. It's like he has the Fabius Bile thing, but he does it to a single squad every turn, and there's no downside.
Yeah,
and it's permanent. And he's a big punchy boy with a bunch of other abilities, but like I don't know, warriors just suck.
Yeah.
their game plan of just standing way back and shooting and having planes do stuff doesn't really work anymore. Like the planes don't really work anymore.
Yeah,
their costs went up a lot.
Yeah, their tanks are sort of mediocre and went up a bunch of points, right? And
yeah, I
they
love
can't
that
fall back and shoot anymore. And yeah.
A monolith is like statistically easier to kill than like that like Space Marine El Camino.
I mean, impulsors are like one of the most annoyingly hard to kill models in the game, so
yeah, that's true.
That's not a fair comparison.
But like Necrons are also about to get completely
right.
Like,
they're going to get a new book. I mean, same for Space Marines, right? Because
well, they're going to stay mostly the same.
All of the Space Marine factions on this list are about to get changed.
Yeah, but I mean, like most of the stuff's going to stay mostly the same. A little bit will get like toned down, I think. Yeah. So they might drop a little bit. Whereas Necrons, like, they're fundamentally changing. The sort of like core rule of reanimation protocols is about to get completely overhauled.
Yep.
A lot of their core units are about to get overhauled. Like the Warriors are getting overhauled. The Monolith is getting a complete rewrite. I'm assuming based on the fact that it's getting a new model and its previous rules were garbage.
Yeah.
Like they're probably going to remove the plane bomb strat entirely and then just give those different stat lines to make them viable. Like I feel like there's just a completely different playstyle that's going to pop up.
Pro tip of the day. Don't amalgamate targeting data ever. It's never worth it. Just shoot your gun.
Pro tip of the day number 2. If it's 2019 and you're playing orcs, just do it all day because you'll kill 700 points of characters at once. They all have like 3 wounds.
That's true.
No invulnerable saves to suck.
Yeah. So we should do...
Let's do Space Marines.
Well, no, because if I write on the screen, then I have to get rid of it later.
Well, I mean, you're not going to have to get rid of it because, like...
we know where Custodes are going. Now we should do Custodes first. All right.
Okay.
Ready? Custodes are really bad. Let's put them in F.
Okay,
right,
yeah. I mean, there's so much oil. Their pecs are so
too slippery.
Hard.
They've slipped all the way down the ranking to F.
You know that situation where you become so muscular you can't even like itch your own back.
Yeah. Oh,
like this is worst. Them right now. Like they can't even get out of a chair.
Just the worst.
But like just for the joke though, let's just put them in that. Like let's pretend they're at the top of S tier and just like just see how it feels for a bit.
Yeah. So Custodes, their whole army's OBSEC. That's great. Their Psychic Awakening was just a pure, constant deluge of insanity.
Yeah. Wait, did they get a better one, or did AdMech get a better one?
That is a really good question. I think AdMech got a better one. Got a better one, but then AdMech got a bunch of points increases, and then Custodes did not. So
no, they stayed exactly the same.
So
and the game turned into something that they really want to play.
Right, and yeah, so the game plan in 9th edition obviously is to stand up in a place and kill everyone there. And Custodes, turns out, if you want to stand in a place and you're next to Custodes unit, you're going to be removed from that place very quickly.
If you just pretend the middle of every table is, in fact, the Emperor's palace, it makes perfect sense that they're killing you there.
They got 1 billion buffs in Psychic Awakening to work right alongside their game plan. They're hyper lethal at sort of
obscene stratagems.
Yeah, at that short range. Yeah. They just are like you could be half brain dead and win with
yeah, and a lot of their predators. It's not just that. Like a lot of the sort of predatory list types that they had a really hard time dealing with, like Khorne Lord of Skulls, Fly Spam, just like tank walls that sat 30, 40, 50 inches away and fired high efficiency anti-tank weapons at you. Like those are all effectively gone.
Yeah, like, and then sort of like Tyranids, there's also some situations where like the core mechanics of the game have benefited from them. So in a game I played recently, like one thing that my opponent pointed out to me was that if you advance a Sagittarium guard and then double shoot its weapons, it doesn't get -2 to hit; it gets -1. And it's just like, hey, it's just like these little things that are kind of twist the knife in there, where they're starting to they shoot you with their flat 3 damage like mega bolter, in addition to shooting you with 1 billion heavy bolters. One thing that I will say is that they when they're far away from you, they're significantly less efficient at removing you. Like they don't shoot very good, so they have a tough time getting you off objectives at range. But that said, like once they're within that sort of close range band, they can put out a ton of damage. They have the double shoot strat for all of their like sort of bolter equivalents, and then they'll just charge you and you're dead. Yeah,
yeah. It feels like a lot like Knights, but unlike Knights, they're good at it.
Yeah.
They play the fewer objectives on the table, the better for Custodes. Like I feel like they have a kind of a hard time with six objectives.
Yep.
They don't have very many units. The units they have, they tend to clump up a little bit just to ensure the sort of destruction that they can do. They're not very fast. Like the bike units are very fast, but just the foot guys are not. Most of their tanks actually kind of got blasted for point values, or just for general gameplay play style. So they don't maneuver around the board very well. But what they do is just take a thing from you, stand on it, and never give it up, ever.
Yeah, so their units are very difficult to kill unless you can spam a lot of mortal wounds into them for the most part. They also, it's not like they don't have any options for mobility. Like Dawn Eagle shield captains are still fine, and they'll run around and they'll solo great. Units like that are many times their number.
With the number of stackable buffs onto them too, they're one of the few HQ choices that you can just sort of throw out there, and it's not really cost efficient to even try to shoot at them.
Right. Yeah. They're just sort of they're as good as they were when they were in 8th edition. People used to see them everywhere. Custodians, they just play into the 9th edition game plan exceedingly well. And we should also mention it's a lot like Grey Knights, where a lot of their buffs are incumbent on their CP, and in 8th they had a real tough time generating CP, and in 9th they have way too many.
As a part of their design, all of their strats were like one cost, because it was assumed, much like with the Knights, it was assumed that they were not going to have very many CP. But unlike with the Knights, people didn't make like the loyal 32 plus whatever number of custodes. Like they just sort of suffered under that regime, whereas now suddenly they have the same amount of CP as everybody else.
Yeah, the difference being that Knights would supply your fire support, and then the Loyal 32 would sit on objectives, where this is the other way around. You don't want to bring objective holders to support your objective holders. Yeah. But now, everything that they do is hyper efficient for sure. Yeah. In terms of command points.
A 1 CP strat to make it so that attacks in a phase against one of your units do not benefit from rerolls.
I know. That's a good one.
Like, you take that Eldar army and put that into the bottom of F tier. Like, what do you do? It also, some of there's interesting triggering there as well, because that triggers when you are targeted. And a lot of offensive stratagems come into play when you go to shoot. So, for example, like if you have a stratagem that lets you reroll against something, like Grey Knights have Bring It Down, right? They'll pick a Telemon Dreadnought and they'll be like, Bring It Down, and then you just get to spend 1 CP and turn their stratagem off after they've targeted you. It's even more than that too, because especially on the Telemon, you can also just make it take 1 less damage.
They also have the Duty Eternal equivalent.
That unit is not killable.
No, it's
it's killable via like I'll kill it. Yeah. I don't have any target buffs. I played Demon Deathguard. What are strats?
Yeah, they also have those things. They also have, like we talked about with Space Wolves, how powerful Heroic Intervention is right now. They have a Heroic Intervention strat. They have, I believe they have a 1 CP interrupt if they're on an objective as well. They just have so many stratagems that are just so incredibly good in the 9th edition game plan.
And they also get to play, Abhor the Witch?
And they get to play Abhor the Witch if you don't take an Inquisitor.
Just like free 15 points. And unlike Sisters, you don't really need the Inquisitor. Like, Sisters generally, I feel like that army needs what they bring more than Custodes. Custodes cover most of the same design space, but via their strats.
And in their base stat line too, right? Like, you don't need an Inquisitor to give you a 5+ invulnerable save, because your whole army has a 4+ invulnerable save, so who cares? Yeah,
you don't need Inquisitor for, like, a deny bubble shenanigans, because you have the strat.
Right.
I guess Sisters also have the strat, but, you know.
So all that said, I do think that there is one sort of gaping hole in the Custodes game plan, which is that they're just like they were in 8th edition. Their army's like 15 to 20 models. It is minuscule. And it's
I have as many Blight Haulers.
Extremely hard to kill. But it's not. It can't be everywhere, and they can teleport well, and they have some fast characters. But
they have a mission imbalance,
right? So what they're going to do is they're going to sort of pick a flank of the table and just ram their army down it and kill everything on it. But if you are fast and dodgy, a lot of times you can sort of find a way to outplay them.
Yeah, and like in
It's
a
so
multi-round
hard, but-
event,
yeah.
in a multi-round event, I wouldn't be surprised if the performance of Custody's armies is pretty heavily linked to the the
Right.
order of the missions.
And
Like
yeah,
is 6 missions round 1 and is 6 objectives 1 and 3 objectives 6
Yeah.
or round 4 or 5,
Yeah.
then they're going to do great.
right.
But you definitely
Yeah,
don't want to run
and-
into like 5 objectives against somebody who's playing a very crafty.
Right, and even
Eldar are the fast movement
the
that
low
they'd have a hard
objective
time
missions
with, they
in
need
the
that.
GT packet have those objectives spread out way across the table.
Yeah.
And Custodes are good in missions where they can sort of cluster their offense into one area of the
Exactly.
table. So yeah, and honestly, I almost wonder if like give us 2 months down the road, and we're gonna be laughing that we thought Custodes were the best army in the game, because like at that point, their meta may be solved, and you may just be like, well, if you just run these 3 units and then like double move them with a million ways to do that, like Custodes have no way to deal with it.
It's possible, but like I feel
But their
they
raw
can
efficiency,
hold-
I think, is unlike anything else in the game right now.
in 5 rounds they'll get 40 to 45 points just off holding 2.
Yeah.
For the most part, and I feel like much like the Eldar, they're not going to win by just dominating the whole board. They're going to win by just keeping up with you or slightly beating you on primaries and just walloping you on secondaries. And I feel like they can just do that no matter what.
That's an awesome point too, because I think another power of the faction and is that they are almost impossible to pick secondaries against.
Yeah,
their offensive output is incredibly powerful. So you don't want to take sort of high maneuver secondaries where that you're going to be running into their threat range, because then they just automatically delete you a lot of times.
You can't take attrition. Really.
Right, you'll never be able to, you'll never be able to win attrition.
Dominate feels like domination you'd probably take against them most of the time, because you're probably
it depends
your
on
turn on more than them.
It depends on the mission for sure. But you they never have enough characters to assassinate. Like all of the kill objectives and most of the what do you call them, purge the enemy objectives are off the table against Custodes. You just can't do that.
Stratagem based denies means you can't even like mentally interrogate them.
Right.
Because like they spend
Sometimes
a
they just
strat
stop
and then
you,
you can't try it again.
Right.
You're just, as long as they save 4 CP, 5 CP over the course of a game, they just shut you off of a secondary.
Yeah. So in a lot of times, like even if you're beating them on primaries, like they'll leverage, like you said, the fact that they're dominating you on secondaries to pull out a close win.
I feel like they get close wins. AdMech don't win as often, but when they win, it's much more spectacularly. So they'll end up.
They sort of
an
in 1 or
event with
2
much
shooting
higher
phases,
points.
they'll cripple you.
Yeah. I feel like Deathguard are between the two. Like they hold very well, but also they can just do crazy damage.
Yeah, sometimes
sometimes
you just get into a board state where you can't engage into a Deathguard army, and you just lose it. It's like a slow rotting death as like the contagion takes away your primary objective points. No, the bubonic plague is getting rid of my banners.
All right, well we got one more.
There's a couple.
There's a secret character.
There's a couple. We have a couple secret unlocks that we've achieved now that we're
we've beaten the game. We've now unlocked the character on the cover of the box.
yeah. The first one being, ready? We talked about them a little bit earlier. Chaos Knights. Probably right where Knights are.
I'd put them into E. They have...
but they're better at night. They're better doing the night thing, though. They're just more expensive.
No, they're not anymore.
Why not?
They're worse. Their pregame selections are no longer really as pregamey because you have to pick them at list creation. Their points costs got like they weren't paying attention. I mean, some of this might get fixed, but some of their points costs are way high. Like they're not 20 points higher. They're like 100 points higher for the same model, and it's just like nonsense.
That's why we should put them below Knights.
And also the Engine War was really nice to Imperial Knights, whereas I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't even know what Chaos Knights got in their.
We'll put Chaos Knights
in their BA. I'd say they're probably the top of E, maybe.
Chaos Knights.
We did not capture it for Chaos because that's really hard with this army.
Next up, Harlequins.
I'd say B.
I like that. They feel very Tyranidy, except their stuff is actually really lethal in combat, especially fighting other chaff stuff. Like those, they'll just F you up.
They're like the opposite of Tyranids in that they don't have anything to shoot with. That matters. Like all the what is this? Death Jester, the backline guy who just like sat back there and relied on the character keyword to not die.
Yeah.
What's that guy even do now? Is he
GG.
free? Is he 0 points? But they're frontline troops that are just like honestly pretty lethal and sit on a 4-up invuln, can get anywhere at any time.
Yep.
They can lock you in combat.
Yeah.
It's like a 1 CP strat to not be able to escape.
Yeah.
They feel
There's and they have the strats to leave combat before you swing.
Yeah.
They have they fight they seem like they actually fight effectively in the combat phase, especially because their units are small. And they're small units of small basic models that can kind of get weird places.
If it wasn't for that 170 point Deathguard guy with like that like garden sprayer,
Yeah.
they would maybe be an A.
That guy's
but that guy beats that army automatically just by existing.
Yeah. And I think it seems to me like they're kind of in the same position as a lot of this kind of B, C tier stuff where they have a decent game plan and they're pretty good at doing it. They're just not as mathematically efficient as the top things. And so they'll just get, like, sometimes you just hit AdMech and they shoot you to death and you're like, okay, that was fun. Next up, we have Yanari.
I kind of want to say C.
Are they F? They don't. They're just worse craft world, and they have like 2 characters that you can take sometimes.
I mean, the Incarn is good now. He went from being pretty good to like really good.
But you got to take an army around him, which is like
I guess. So what did they do before? That army wanted to be an Eldar foot horde, but Storm Guardians are like 9 points now.
Yeah,
they're like this obscene, like laughable value.
I mean, it was the
hospital joke.
The index is a delivery system for like the 3 characters, right? Like the Vice Arc and the Incarn and the lady.
They had a good foot horde. Like they're like the starting ability that they got immediately after anything died was that they fought first in combat. Yeah. And just avatars plus 200 plus Storm Guardians would beat a lot of armies because they all went first and they just choked you under mass.
Yep.
But that doesn't work now because they just via pure points that list doesn't work. So you're kind of stuck taking nothing but like Wraith Blades. Right? What are they? The Wraith Guard with the axes?
Yeah.
Which is not a great. I mean, they're okay, but like that might put them above Necrons or Orcs. Like they're not an F. Like they have.
They're better than Genestealer Cult.
Yes.
But they don't have race cards.
Drukari are better than Genestealer Cult.
I don't believe that for a second.
They're just relying on the points efficiency of some Craft World Eldar units
that are no longer points efficient.
I mean, some of the Wraith stuff is fine. I mean, it's not the infantry. It's like the Wraith based units. But I feel like those would put them above Necrons.
Oops, I put them in F.
No, and it's impossible to drag the Gene Cult after them.
Yep. Let's do. I guess it's just Space Marines. I think we're out. I think we've done them all.
No, we got Aeronautica.
Oh, Aeronautica Imperialis.
S tier.
S tier.
Yep. All right. It's just Arvislate. Just like 100 Arvislaters are a dedicated transport. You can just have a ton of them. Each Arvislater will drop a single model off somewhere. That guy will be like, "Man, this is the best Uber."
And it gets a little. He'll
tip. Always tip your drivers.
Wings.
All right. I hope you can erase this though, because like Space Marines need to fit there.
Space Marines, you think are S tier?
I think they're the end of S. I think they're better
somewhere in this A area.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, so
they feel pretty reasonable.
Here's a hard question: are they worse or better than Deathwatch?
I think.
Or just question. Them, but more efficient along a single axis.
I think that they are probably around to the same power level.
I wish we had like. I mean, it would be annoying if we had to break them out into their subfactions.
They have other. Yeah. They would take us ages. I think that I'm gonna make a hot take here. I think salamanders are the best one. And I think we're gonna see that next week come out in force. I think White Scars have a pretty good. I mean, they're all pretty solid. Like Iron Hands just being hard to kill is pretty good. Salamanders also just do that all the time anyway. So, what was that?
So Black Templars are great at making your opponent laugh at you. Black Templars are great at making people realize you started playing this game in 3rd edition when they were cool.
Yeah. Black Templars I think might be the outlier. They're not very good. But like White Scars I think are solid. Just being able to just shove aggression down your opponent's feet, your opponent's face. You also have like Ultramarines are fine. I think just being able to fall back and shoot is really strong because you can just sit powerful shooters in the middle of the table. And then, I think, like I said, Salamanders are really good, and Iron Hands are probably also in the running for the best subfactions. But they have different units than Deathwatch. Like, they're not just relying on their intercessors. I think the big weakness of Deathwatch is that they have like two good things, and there's things are super
Deathwatch
good.
are just exploiting a single undercosted unit,
basically,
with undercosted
sure.
options, with like options that aren't costed into the unit.
And it looks to me like the Space Marine armies right now are getting a little bit more technical. There's a lot of, like I mentioned before, land speeders are sort of coming into lists as just these hyper efficient, like tiny modules that can deal a bunch of damage. Once you add Master Artisans on there, it just gets like the efficiency goes through the roof.
There's so much design space when you have 700 trillion data sheets and a billion rules.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue with Space Marines in 9th edition is the issue that they've been having forever. It's like they have so many things that one of them is always going to be unbalanced, and it's impossible to know which one.
Well, right. I think we know which one it is currently. It's a.
What do you think?
It's a 3-man unit.
Oh,
it costs 120 points.
It's probably Eradicators,
it's
but
perfect at Salamanders. Salamanders love it.
You know what else is amazing? Is Land Speeder Tempests.
Bet
you didn't see that coming.
No, there was a hot second when those were really good.
Oh, was there?
Last year too? Yeah,
I missed that.
They've always been kind of on the cusp.
Typhoons had a little bit of a heyday when the Iron Hands book came out, but they kind of fell off.
The issue with those is like a lot of what Forge World is doing right now with its costing and with its costing out of 2020 chapter approved is it's telegraphing what's gonna happen with the new Forge World book. Mm-hmm. That one's coming out relatively soon, I think. That's not just going to be a reprint of what is effectively the like every Forge World model is just the 8th edition index right now. Like they never got updates.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to redo most of them, and I doubt a lot of them stay the same. And that includes did the Tempest not get legended? Nope. That thing has not been in production since 1996.
Like, it looks really cool though.
It does. Does it have a point value? Like, was it? I saw that was being run. I mean, if a lot of people are running it, it must. But
yeah, I think it's in. Unfortunately, I can't look at my field manual while I have this thing up. So we're stuck here now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the Minotaur field manual.
Well, I mean, it's yeah. I mean, they have that. They have the Whirlwind. Which one? Or what's that thing?
The Scorpius. Scorpius is super good. Scorpius is really good right now. Yeah, I mean,
10 points, but was already undercosted.
Yeah, they lose a lot of a little bit of because of the relic tax, obviously.
Yeah.
They're a little bit less efficient, but there's just there's always going to be an off the wall Space Marine build that's solid because there's too many data sheets for there not to be, and just
also
truth.
they just gave them so many rules
The people complaining about Space Marines in 8th edition before they got their new book, I chuckled my little tush off because Space Marines had, even at their darkest moment, Space Marines had 2 or 3 B tier, B plus tier builds because they just had so much stuff. There was Leviathan Dreadnoughts were hyper efficient. There were 5. The 5 repulsor list was like a
what a blessed time it is now that the Leviathan Dreadnought just got costed right into everybody's
glorious
display shelf.
Man, that model is really that might be in line with Eradicator. So especially so the worst part about the Leviathan Dreadnought now, I think in my opinion, is that Eradicators unlock its relic tax. So you can take
100 points more than it was though.
But it's not that much.
Yeah.
It's not even that many more points. It's 300 and something, right? It's 360 or something. It's 50. It went up 50 points.
If it's the Chaos one, it actually did go up 100 points. the Butcher Cannon went up 30 points per gun.
Guy. Yeah, that's stupid. Leviathan Dreadnought's really super busted.
And that was already the worst of the two. Yeah. I don't know what. Well,
it was arguable, right? Because they were easier to kill, but they had a longer range gun, which was kind of a big deal. A lot of times you would in 8th edition.
Can you name a GT winning Chaos Army that had even one though? Because I can name 1,000 GT winning Space Imperial armies that had a regular Dreadnought in it.
That's true. I mean, that's you're comparing apples and oranges a little bit because Imperium soup is going to be better than chaos soup every day. We also don't have soup lists in here. Obviously,
Well,
I think
not better than chaos soup now.
Imperium soup and chaos soup probably in the A to S tier, somewhere in here-ish. Somewhere.
Yeah, I think Deathguard unlock get more powerful when they are souped. I don't know that. What Imperial soup is going on right now that's like real good?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that there's some lists with like Imperial fists that bring in a bunch of like really powerful artillery to then use like sort of the frontline stuff that Imperium has, like the cheap stuff to take the center. That's pretty good. I don't know if it's as good as it was in 8th edition. I just haven't really seen it yet. We're so early right now that it's like the kind of corner case things are still a little bit haven't been kind of optimized, so I haven't seen them on the table. But
I'll tell you one soup that's hot. It is spicy.
It's a Tyranid soup.
I was gonna say Tyranid and Gene Cult, but like that's just it's so lie. I was like making a joke. It's just awful.
Although but they're like, I think that's all. We did all the factions, right?
Yeah,
we did it. Every one of them.
I think so. I believe it. Yeah, I mean we didn't do Zotes yet.
Zotes.
We haven't done
that comes up here.
Does dwarves.
Unaligned, right? Unaligned.
Oh yeah, we gotta do unaligned.
You get the Zote, you get bastions, and you get spindle drones, and
you can legally take an army composed entirely of fortifications. You just take 3 fortification detachments. You just have like 9 bastions.
You just boost yourself immediately, and you lose.
Would you be boost? Yeah. No, a lot of those are units.
You don't. If fortifications don't count to whether or not you're tabled, unless they have models in them. Yeah. You gotta take 1 spindle drone unit to go in one of those bastions. And then it's like a cup game where you don't tell your opponent which one they're in. They have to kill them all.
Well, spindle drones are like minimum size 1, right?
Yeah, you take individual spindle drones.
Yeah, you take like 3 spindle drones.
You're like I've physically put the spindle drone in the bastion, but you have to destroy it to see whether it's bad. Amazing. You also get ambles. Very powerful. So I put Unaligned up at the top of S tier. They're probably fighting with Aeronautical Imperialis for the top spot, and those are some good factions. How about those Renegade Militia? How are they doing? Did they get legended? They got legended, right?
Yeah, I think they're doing real bad. I don't think the Malefic Lord is currently a thing.
Oh, we missed Death Corps of Krieg, probably. Whoopsies.
I think
no, that's in Astronotar.
Yeah,
they're just a regiment.
Yeah, I think we have covered basically every mainland army.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us. I think this was a pretty comprehensive look. We even covered Aeronautica Imperialis, so that's very good. I feel good about that. We gave them a little wings on their star. So
we missed Eldar Corsairs.
Corsairs.
Yeah.
We'll just do this. Ready? There we go.
Solid.
They get an E on their name because they're so airy. Awesome. Well, this was a fun time. I think everybody had a good time. I hope that we see a big shakeup in this in the coming weeks. I
can't wait for like the first 3 GTs to just all be like Orc, Demon, Necron top 3s.
Like yeah. So invitational lists are going in this weekend, and we're gonna see. So far,
I'm bringing to it.
Your eyeballs to watch the stream.
My eyeballs. My regret. I didn't get 1 more point in any of my games.
I am a little worried that Space Marines are getting a new codex and will bump themselves up a little bit. Get a little bit of bumping going on.
Every leak so far from that codex, which mostly just like a harvested pictures from their video.
Yeah,
it's all nerfs. One captain and lieutenant per detachment is like, that's just on the page.
That doesn't matter.
Matters a little bit.
No, it does not matter. But Dark Angels went from rerolling ones to hit to getting +1. That's strictly better. We'll see how it goes. There's new Gravis stuff obviously on the way too, and then another new entire wave of Space Marine releases, which is exhausting. Thanks everybody for watching our amazing tier list. I think it's very legitimate, and
I'm excited to just get immediately proved wrong, and then just get.
Well, I'm confident that we will not be proved wrong, and that we will be vindicated that Aeronautica Imperialis is indeed the most powerful faction in the game.
You know what I'm confident about? I'm confident the comments will be very respectful, and they will. You know what? Why don't you give us your tier lists down in the comments?
Boosh.
Do you disagree? Do you agree?
Tell
You
us
think
the tier
Necrons should be higher?
list.
You're wrong. Do you think Custodies should be higher? You're right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. And
Later, everybody.